Well, hey, hello everybody. I'm here to start another short lecture for juvenile justice systems. I wanted to say it's a pleasure to work with you on this. This is, if you've read anything about the course and so forth, this is one of my favorite subjects. So I'm going to walk down through the second module with you right now, and just kind of give you a quick overview of what to worry about this week. Looking at it, the important thing on this, there's two discussions in this week, and they're on two totally different topics, so that's pretty important. So if you do one and you think you're done, you're not. Okay? So the module description, it's about mainly theories, is what the chapter's about. It's many different theories: classical school, positive school, choice theory, and I'm going to deterrence. I'm going to talk about some other ones that I'm interested in as well: biological factors, genetic factors, and so forth. The other thing in this is that, you know, there is a module overview. It's called Module 2 Overview. That's kind of what I'm basing some of these comments on. There's module resources, and then, as I mentioned, there's these two discussion boards. One is on factors influencing delinquency. The other one is interview preparation, and that's kind of a specific thing that you're going to work on in terms of working on interview questions to do an interview later on in the course. And this would be with a person that you want to talk to, that would be considered, at least to some extent, an expert in the field. Now, you need to look at the Juvenile Justice Project Journal. Remember that you're doing journaling. And then an additional thing in this week is the short paper, Impact of Personality. Does your personality play a part in whether or not you become delinquent? For example, they talk about ADD. You could also talk about ODD. What's ODD? It's not just that they're just odd. It's that it's called oppositional defiant disorder. And I don't mind if you want to reach out a little bit into the data out in the research that's available. Just make sure that it's good peer-reviewed research and not just any old thing. Definitely don't use Wikipedia in my class, because it's not peer-reviewed. It's what they call open source, and what that means is just about anybody could post something or alter it on Wikipedia. In fact, there's some jokes out there on some different websites talking about how they went in and messed up, hackers went in and messed up something on Wikipedia. So you want to watch that. I mean, it's an open source, kind of a dictionary type thing. And just another point is, dictionaries themselves aren't really what we're looking for in this, other than just for a basic definition of the topic, and then you want to move on into peer-reviewed sources. Another point, since I'm talking about this is a short paper coming up. Peer review is important. Peer review is a committee of experts that look at somebody's writing and research and determine if it's testable, determine if it's valid, determine if it's worthwhile, and before it can even be published. So that's what makes peer review so important, is that a committee has looked at the material that has some knowledge of the content and have said, yes, this is good, this is interesting, we need to make this available to the public. So you just can't go and just blow off your opinion of this, that, the other thing, like you see so often on Facebook, not based on any research, just important to the person, but not compelling for research purposes. So that's important to keep that in mind. Another thing on these short papers, keep in mind, you got to have that APA well in hand. So basically, these are the comments that we're going to make, just to remind you of what we're looking at. So now we're going to move on and say, what in your mind influences delinquency? This is where you can comment in your discussion board in discussion 2.1. I'm going to work on that. What factors influence delinquency? Some people, right off the cuff, they're going to say, well, poverty. influences delinquency. But over time, you look at a lot of poor people who have achieved great things in spite of poverty. You can look at people around the world, for instance, Nelson Mandela and Mother Teresa, and many of these other people just went right into poverty and tried to fight it and make the best of it with very little in terms of resources. Gandhi, another example. Gandhi was a lawyer, but he chose to throw his whole self and person into freedom for his people, which is the Indian people. It's just interesting about Gandhi, by the way, that when Gandhi was working on trying to get freedom for India, there was just one India. But what ended up happening was that there was a Muslim part of India and there was an Hindu part of India. And so those religious differences ended up dividing the country into at first 2 parts and then later into 3 parts with Bangladesh. So this is also an interesting consideration, that countries that are totally full of poverty yet are not completely uncivilized. So is poverty the answer to juvenile delinquency? I think it can be sometimes because of things like strain theory, where kids today, they watch TV. I don't care how poor you are, you have access to television. And you see these other kids riding around on nice bikes and these fancy tennis shoes. I mean, you know, and they might just get frustrated and say, well, I'm going to get me some of those tennis shoes. But I don't see that being a deep-seated cause of, you know, like a life of crime. I think there's some other things that we have to look at. Well, like I said, there's in your Module 2, basically overview, they mention